Welcome to In the Envelope, an awards podcast. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage. I'm here to give you a front row seat to the Emmys, Oscars, SAG, and Tonys races. Who is in the running? What makes an award-worthy performance? And what are the secrets to giving one? These intimate, inspirational conversations with some of today's most talented stars provide you, dear listener, the kind of craft and career advice that could win you a statue of your own, and maybe, just maybe, a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope. Maybe that gives it color and texture.
I'm a journalist.
We are still analog with paper. Jamie, make sure you get these sound effects. But also this. Oh, did I just screw it up? Oh, it's so loud. Okay, hi. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Elyse Roth is joining us on a very special episode of In the Envelope and Awards podcast. Hi.
Hello.
This is our second ever discussion-based episode of the podcast, where instead of an Emmy-nominated guest or a Tony-nominated guest or an Oscar contender, we have a member of the Backstage staff come to talk about the state of the race, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm not Emmy-nominated, but I'm a long-time Emmy watcher, which nominates me to have this conversation with you.
I nominate you. We at Backstage are, not to toot our own horn, but kind of, we are experts in this field.
We are.
I would say you and I, in particular, are experts in the field of television and in the field of Emmys. In particular, we're here to talk about the 2019 Emmys.
Yeah. Very exciting list of nominees this year.
It really is, yeah.
Some
more exciting
real
than I
surprises.
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially what I had kept saying before the nominations came out, we should dive right into this. We both have our lists.
We do have our lists.
In front of us. I expected the comedy races to be a little bit of the same old.
Mm-hmm.
Where the drama races, there are a lot of new stuff. Obviously Game of Thrones dominated, and we'll talk about that. But I didn't expect the comedy races to honor quite as much new stuff. Even Schitt's Creek is not a new show. It took 5 seasons to get on the Emmy voters' radar, and now it's on the radar in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got Russian Doll, and you've got a couple people I assumed were getting in that didn't. Fleabag went huge. We knew Maisel would do okay. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Let's look at this list.
But last year, Maisel was the clear front runner. There was almost no question that it was going to do as well as it did.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it's that's not necessarily the case.
What's going on? I know.
And there are things that the front runner, my radar for who is the standout has been totally disrupted because of some of the surprise nominees.
Totally. We should talk a little bit about last year because that was an interesting case where Game of Thrones had come back, and so it was eligible and it did win a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it was Veep, which tends to win a lot of the comedy races.
Right.
That was not there last year. And so what makes this year sort of interesting is Game of Thrones, which is definitely the top earner in the drama categories, and Veep, which, as usual, earned quite a few in the comedy categories. Those are both HBO shows and both ending, or both have now ended.
It's their farewell, last chance to be nominated.
Last chance, which does make me think voters are very aware of that, and certainly Game of Thrones broke the record this year for most nominations ever given in a single year to a scripted series, or a scripted drama, or a scripted series.
That's your area of expertise.
The record stuff. I also have this cool thing here where it's most Emmy nominations for an individual. Lorne Michaels now has 90. Last year he was 86, and now he's all the way up to 90.
I never thought about that somehow.
It's all him. And then if you go to most awards won by individuals, you'd think it would be an actor, but no, it's Sheila Nevins. And obviously most Emmy noms for a single program is Saturday Night Live with 270, but Game of Thrones 161.
It's crazy because yes, Saturday Night Live seems obvious, but it's also been on since 1975,
right.
And it's eligible in so many categories. And Game of Thrones has been on for a long time, but it's been 10 years, and it hasn't even been eligible every one of those 10 years.
Right, exactly.
And
I believe it's won 93 Emmys.
Right. So
most of any scripted series.
That is an impressive second place to something that has been on for many people who are alive now their whole life.
Totally. This really is the end of an era in terms of specifically Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time we all gathered around on a Monday morning and talked about an episode of TV?
Yeah. It feels, the end of the water cooler era.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And obviously the nominators at the Emmys this year, in particular with the acting, I think if I had gone through and made a list of who I thought was going to be predicted, I didn't know that the supporting actress in a drama category would be 4 Game of Thrones actresses plus 2 non-Game of Thrones actresses.
Yeah, it's interesting because
4.
Game of Thrones always picks up a lot of nominations, and it has regularly picked up some acting nominations.
Sure.
It almost never wins those acting categories.
Peter Dinklage is the only exception.
And there's usually 1, maybe 2 people in a category that's like they're the person that's grounding it for the acting categories, but they've won a lot in those creative arts categories and the technical categories. And which it's very deserving because the
special effects on that show. Oh my gosh.
Each episode is like this epic movie, basically, especially this season. But it was interesting to look at the nominations this year and see so many actors, including 3 that HBO didn't even submit, that submitted themselves, and they still got nominated.
I wanted to ask you about that. So you were all over that story. That sounds like a very backstagey story, to have somebody like, Gwendolyn Christie we all love her. She's an established person, but allegedly, HBO didn't do anything to submit her episode, and she did it herself.
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
Right, that is crazy, but it's also, it's not unheard of, and it's, if you're an actor that believes in your work and that you're doing good work, then it's a nominal fee if you're a Game of Thrones actor, especially, to enter yourself, and why not? What do you have to lose? You start out not nominated.
Totally.
The worst that could happen is that you don't get nominated, but the best that could happen is that you get nominated for an Emmy.
Completely.
And
I think those are all really deserved. Alfie Allen was nominated for the first time. He was so good in that last season.
Yeah. So I think that it's very deserved. And Gwendolyn Christie at times has done just as much as some of the nominees that were submitted by HBO.
Yeah.
And she's had some really emotional scenes. She's had a lot of really active scenes. She's really done the range of Game of Thrones tones and moods.
Totally.
So
which almost brings me to who would you want to? How do you pick a winner in that category, but also just in general? When you have multiple nominees from one show, it can be hard to be first of all, who do we think is going to win? Is there vote splitting?
And it feels like, if you're looking at it as a cumulative type of nomination, which they're not. That's not how the awards work, but I can't imagine that some of the voters don't vote that way.
Yeah. For the last hurrah, you might want Lena Headey because she's given 8 seasons of incredible work.
But she didn't have as much to do in this most recent season, or even in the last 2 recent seasons, than someone like Sophie Turner, who wouldn't have maybe stuck out to you in the early seasons because there were a lot of cast members and she was younger, and her character wasn't as developed or going through anything as adult as it has in more recent seasons. So it's just,
there's a little bit of a crowning thing as a voter where you're like, I want this person to be an Emmy winner. There's a little bit of the always the bridesmaid never a bride thing of they've been nominated so many times. That is true for Lena Headey for sure in that category.
And even someone like Maisie Williams, who doesn't seem super likely, she's a personal favorite of mine, so I'm a little bit biased.
You want to vote for her.
But I think about how her arc over the whole series is she started out as this kid who was in a certain family situation, and over the course, it feels like no other character has gone to the lengths that she has gone to different parts of this world. She's done crazy fight choreography. She's been paired with all these different actors. She's held her own against very established adult actors. So that feels very deserved. But at the same time, it's how do you choose between all these people who've had vastly different experiences on the same show?
Totally. It's such a sprawling epic of a show. And it's that thing, too, where, I don't know this off the top of my head, but if there's ever been, it's very rare that there are 4 actors from the same category, from the same show in one category, But I imagine that the precedent for that isn't that one of those wins. I feel like vote splitting is a factor here.
Right.
And the other two nominees, I believe, are Fiona Shaw for Killing Eve and Julia Garner for Ozark, both of which we need to talk about.
Right. Two
amazing
more
dramas.
very, amazing dramas, deserving actors, amazing performances. This year it's really a challenge.
It is. I want to get to the lead drama actress category. Let's only talk about the actress categories, That's all I don't really care about the actors. Okay. Your beloved Richard Madden was not nominated.
Yeah.
For Bodyguard.
Of course. It is, it's very sad.
But this is what I predicted in terms of the nominations. Leading actress in a drama this year, the only eligible person from the 2018 nominees was Sandra Oh for Killing Eve. Her fellow 2018 nominees, which was like Elizabeth Moss, Claire Foy, who won, none of the Kerry Russell for the last season of American, stuff like that. None of them were eligible. So Sandra, of course, was nominated again, but everyone else in her category is new this year.
New, but then also
some of them new for the first time. Like, Mandy Moore's never been nominated. Viola Davis obviously has one.
And Robin Wright.
Robin Wright's been nominated, but that's her last hurrah too.
Yeah, and it was a very different season for her for many reasons.
Sure.
And then Sandra Oh against her co-star Jodie Comer, which it's almost like they should get a joint win because they're individually their performances are incredible, but they're also so incredible because of how they play off each other.
Best chemistry should be Elyse and I talk a lot about categories we would make up at the Emmys, but at other award shows too.
And it does feel particularly frustrating for a lot of the shows that are nominated this year that there isn't an ensemble category.
Sure.
Because that is really something that...
Yeah. Off the top of Veep, Game of Thrones, Super Ensemble.
Schitt's Creek.
Maisel. Chernobyl is an ensemble show. When They See Us, obviously. Oh my God. Can we talk about When They See Us?
Yeah. So,
holy cow.
All the categories, especially in acting, are extremely strong this year.
Yeah.
But when it comes to this, the miniseries category, to me, it's one of the most exciting years in recent memory.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone predicted that, I believe it's 8 When They See Us actors were nominated in those categories.
Yes,
which is half of all of When They See Us's Emmy nominations. They got 16, and that's the top earning Netflix show this year.
Yeah. Which it's much deserved.
Totally.
It is. That was a show that I watched and didn't stop thinking about for basically days straight after. It was very effective, very well done. I can't say I'm surprised.
No, and Ava DuVernay, she is the director of that show, and she's the reason why there's 8 acting nominees. She connects with those actors, and they connect with the camera, and they connect with each other, and it's must-see TV.
Right. And, Aisha Coley, her go-to casting director, should be shouted out for that. She's nominated.
Amazing.
I was lucky enough to speak with her earlier this year, and she found these 5 kids. Some of them were new to acting.
Amazing.
Or hadn't done something quite so heavy before. And
to play real-life people.
Right, and really carry it and really draw you into the show. You believed that these kids were them, and then you believe that the adults that she cast were also them later. It just was one of those things where you're like, oh, this is based on a true story, but these are not the people. This is not a documentary.
You have to shake yourself out of it. Yeah. I wanted Elyse to give the spiel about casting and the art of casting. First of all, we just went through the list. You've interviewed so many of the casting directors who are nominated for the Casting Emmys.
Yes, I have interviewed a lot of them. Not always for the show they're nominated for, which also shows that how much work all these people are doing. Like the team that's nominated for Barry is also the team that casts The Handmaid's Tale and The Act.
So random. Yeah. Sometimes it's super random.
And it's just they do so much. And So
a lot of these people cast film as well. So you're
right. Yeah. Cindy Tolan, who was nominated for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but she did If Beale Street Could Talk last year. She's doing West Side Story with Steven Spielberg.
I know Telsey and Canfield do a lot of theater.
Yes, and they also do This Is Us.
Amazing!
And they do a lot of films. They do. They did Mary Poppins last year. They do a lot of the musical films. A lot of Rob Marshall.
Sure. And they are nominated for Fosse Verdon this year.
Yes. So
Fosse Verdon, amazing show. Okay, but go on.
Well, I was gonna before we can still talk about casting, but to kind of kick off the conversation, the Emmys are the only major award show that has a casting category.
Yes.
And there are 4 separate casting categories. There's drama, comedy, limited series, and reality, which shows how important of a element it is to every aspect of television.
Yeah.
And it's much deserved. It feels ridiculous, frankly, that that's not recognized on the other awards.
Certainly at the Oscars, yeah. I mean, it's the most underappreciated of it is an art form.
Right.
As we keep saying on Backstage.
There are so many, going back to when they see us, there are people that they pulled out of the middle of the country, it takes so much work and so much time and a level of taste and a level of talent to identify the people who can fill those roles.
Yeah.
And as much as the director and depending on how the structure is, the producer, studio, people have to sign off on it, but those people couldn't necessarily go to a group of people or look at a stack of tapes or go to an open call and say, that's the person, that's the one. It takes a person who's dedicated to that skill to pick out the people and narrow it down and then deliver those to the people who are making the ultimate decision.
Yeah. And as you've said before, it's especially with the first time or the new or the up-and-coming actors, whereas it's a little different when you're calling Robin Wright or you're calling a big star.
But then I think so Cindy Tolan is nominated for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but the original casting team was nominated last year for the first season because there were 3 separate casting directors that worked on the pilot, and there was a West Coast and an East Coast. Wow. So I spoke with someone else on the team last year who mentioned, she's working really closely with Amy Sherman-Palladino. There are 3 casting directors. They're all bringing people in. They're all working on it. And for someone like Alex Borstein's role, they were looking for a younger actor. They wanted someone who was closer to the Midge Maisel age, so that they were like 2 opposite sides of the same coin. Oh. And it was the casting director who, Amy Sherman-Palladino, is friends with Alex Borstein. She's been, she made appearances in Gilmore Girls. Yeah. And she was like, I think you're thinking of Alex Borstein, and she was like, no, I don't, that's not, and it was almost like, it
negotiating.
Wasn't, yeah. Oh, wow. And so it wasn't like, it's not like it was unheard of because they're friends, and she was like, I really think that you wrote this for this actor that is your friend, she had developed this idea of who this character was, and it was the collaboration with the casting director that got it to that point. Well,
it got to the point where Alex Borstein won last year's Emmy for supporting comedy actress.
Right.
And in fact, that brings us to last year's winners also were Bill Hader and Henry Winkler both for Barry, and Rachel Brosnahan and Alec Borstein both for Maisel. And like we said earlier, I think it's a little more up in the air.
Yeah, it's really, it's one of the first times in a while that I've looked at the list and just really, it could be anyone's game for a lot of these categories.
Leading actress in a comedy, every year it's my favorite category, of course. Mm-hmm. But this year it feels like especially a treat because how many people predicted that Phoebe Waller-Bridge would arrive here with Fleabag, get nominated. Same thing for Catherine O'Hara, 5 seasons in to Pop TV, this tiny little Canadian network's Schitt's Creek. Of course, it achieved bigger distribution because it started streaming on Netflix, and that's why Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy are both nominated, and so is Schitt's Creek for Best Comedy.
Owes its this widespread aspect to Amazon.
It's a BBC show, but none of us. The Emmys didn't really nominate Fleabag season 1.
And the way that British TV works, it's so different from here, and it made a splash in the UK, but it was one season that was 6 episodes, and there's a lot of those types of series in the UK, and it came here, and I think it was almost the perfect time for it to come back, because it snowballed in terms of
the critical praise,
the awareness of it, and now it was like everyone was waiting for it in May. And then she did her Broadway show, or she did her show on or off Broadway.
Yes, that must have helped.
Which helped to be like, what is this?
What is it? Yeah, Fleabag.
For those who unfortunately hadn't discovered before.
Right. It all originated in a one-woman show back in 2011.
Yeah, and
at the Fringe Festival.
Yeah, it was her friend asked her to do something, to do a 10-minute thing, and it's like...
It's now snowballed into 11 Emmy nominations. And I believe, off the top of my head, all the actresses on that show are nominated. So of these 11, you've got Phoebe in leading actress, both Sean Clifford, thank you, and Olivia Colman, Oscar winner Olivia Colman in the supporting category, Fiona Shaw, again nominated, and Kristen Scott Thomas, both in guest actress in a comedy.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. But
Nobody expected that.
No, and it's so different from American television. 6 episodes, 20 minutes each.
Super
20
short.
And change.
Yeah.
And...
Like, stop listening to this podcast right now and go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah.
It's pretty much must-see TV. We're obsessed with it at Backstage.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you can't... If you love TV and you love comedy, then you won't believe that you hadn't seen it before.
Totally.
And then you won't be able to keep yourself from watching it again.
Totally. Oh my god. That category, leading male actor in a comedy is also like totally amazing. I'm obsessed with Don Cheadle in Black Monday, for example. I'm so glad Ted Danson was nominated for The Good Place. Very surprised that The Good Place was also nominated for Best Comedy. It's a very good sign.
Yes.
Again, the comedy races, I would have predicted a lot of the same old, and instead they went for The Good Place, they went for Schitt's Creek, they went for Fleabag. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing.
It is exciting. You think about it, and their HBO and Netflix have a strong showing.
Yeah,
but
as usual,
there is a variety that you see that you didn't necessarily expect, that you haven't seen before. I mean, Killing Eve, that recognition is really important. BBC America. Yeah. It's just, another Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but people are recognizing good quality work. It doesn't matter where they're getting it.
More and more, I would say, I don't necessarily have the exact statistics to back this up, but more and more female-led work, more shows that center female characters. I mean, look at House of Cards and how it was essentially male actor was in the leading role, and Robin Wright was also a leading role, but now it's very much her show. Killing Eve is a fully female-led, female-driven show. Female-produced. I love that Fosse Verdon didn't shy away from making Bob Fosse, played by Sam Rockwell. They didn't shy away from his womanizing weight. He's legendary for that.
They were very honest.
Yeah, and very even in their distribution of wanting to tell Michelle Williams' Gwen Verdon story.
Right, and they didn't sugarcoat how contentious that relationship could get, and the realities of what it was like to be in his orbit and what it was like to be her in his orbit. Yeah. And to have your talent and aspects of your genius overshined because
right? Oh my god.
So many elements of the time.
This is every year is great for limited series, but this really feels like, and that's another one where I don't know who's going to win. For Best Limited Series, we have Fosse Verdon, Sharp Objects, which I loved, When They See Us, of course, which we talked about, Chernobyl, which I know you loved. I haven't seen it at all.
I loved it. I thought it was perfect length, very well done, again, very effective.
Oh, and then Escape at Dannemora. A Ben Stiller produced series that came out in the fall and it's already won a lot of awards.
Yes. Patricia Arquette has been cleaning up for that. And it was one of those things where obviously it was well done and obviously people watched it, but more than other limited series definitely flew under the radar. Yeah. And then she kept winning for things. And then she came out in The Act, and it's like...
Oh my god, The Act!
It's almost like who has a chance, but then you look at the categories and you're like, okay, well, other people do have a chance, but she... Double
nominee.
She disappeared into that character.
Into two very creepy, very different characters.
Yeah.
It could really be the year of Patricia Arquette. I would be thrilled for her if she won both categories in limited series. But yeah, she'd be beating out a lot of really talented people.
Yeah, and then Joey King also nominated for that show. They're in different categories for that show. And it's...
And The Act was so good and it couldn't even get into the limited series category.
Right.
That's a sign of that. True Detective was another one. I thought it was magnificent. Mahershala Ali is amazing. Didn't get into the limited series.
It's just... I look at this list of especially the limited series actress.
Yeah.
And...
Read off those names.
Okay. It's Amy Adams for Sharp Objects, Patricia Arquette for Escape at Dannemora, Michelle Williams for Fosse Verdon, Joey King for The Act, Antonio Ellis for When They See Us, and Niecy Nash for When They See Us. God. So...
Who'd have thunk?
I mean, anyone who saw them, but it's like, first of all, how do you narrow down to just that short list of names with these
I don't know who I would. It's like the apocalypse. How am I supposed to pick someone?
Yeah. It really does feel like an impossible choice.
And as a watcher of award shows, what I really want is unpredictability. I want to be sitting there on the night of and be thinking, like, who could win?
Right. And last year when everyone, or maybe not everyone, but I assume Elizabeth Moss would pick up her second Emmy for Handmaid's Tale because, you know, it's hard to ignore her portrayal of Offred, June, all of the iterations of the name that she's gone through on that show.
And they had dominated the year before,
And Claire Foy, and that was much deserved, but a huge surprise.
Yeah, totally.
And that is exciting.
Totally. And again, that category is super exciting. I love that there are a lot of double nominees, like Sandra Oh is double nominated, Fiona Shaw we talked about. And Patricia Arquette, like, what, is it sacrilegious to say I just want her to win both? I haven't even seen Escape anymore. Oh, well.
I mean, but the thing is, it's like, you see her in anything and you're like, that's an amazing actor. Yes. Anything that she is in, she's going to be amazing in.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I'm so excited to see her.
You can just trust that but then it's like, the other Patricia Clarkson, for another deranged mother character in Sharp Objects,
totally. It's a theme.
Also nominated. And it's like, how do you choose?
How do you choose? Amazing. Before we wrap up, I want to ask, like, favorites that we have, especially ones we haven't really talked about yet. Like, is there a performance this year that you can't stop thinking about? I know that we at Backstage, we write this feature every year where we talk about our favorite moments of the TV season. Elyse wrote about When They See Us. You've already talked about When They See Us.
I do think Jarrell Jerome, who's nominated as a lead actor for a limited series, he was the only actor who played one of the, quote, Central Park Five, who played the younger and the older versions of that character, or that person that he was portraying, and he was incredible. It was just, he basically carried the last episode of the 4-part miniseries, limited series, and it was just, like, you needed to go and take a walk and clear your head after, especially after it ended.
It gets under your skin.
Yeah. He was he was incredible. We've seen him before.
Yeah.
He was in Moonlight. That was, I think, probably the first time people really saw him. But
a bit of a breakout, but this is really official.
He's been working since then, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, oh, he's going to have a long career.
Totally.
And this was,
I hope so,
really put him on the map as an adult actor, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and then for that feature, I specifically wrote about this one tiny moment in The Good Place. Maya Rudolph, who is nominated for Guest Actress in a Comedy, she wiggles her shoulders in a certain way. We can link to that feature when it comes out, because I just thought that it's funny what lingers in your head. Like, we watch a lot of TV.
Yes.
There's a lot of TV out there. This is the era of peak TV. I'm sitting here admitting that I haven't seen certain shows, even though I'm supposed to have, because there's only so many hours in the day.
It's impossible.
So those moments that stick out and those examples of great acting, writing, directing, that must mean it's a really good example of that, because it's rising above the others.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the thing about the Emmys is that they've become almost more legitimate and more prestigious because there's so much TV that people need an indicator of what's great, what's exceptional, you know?
Yeah. And we talked about, I feel like you could continue to add categories.
There are already
for
so
forever.
Many. Yeah.
And it still wouldn't be enough to accommodate all of the talent that is working in front of and behind the camera on TV. But it's both, you know, an indicator of maybe what you should watch or really what's rising above, but also, you know, there's never going to be enough categories or slots in a category for all the high quality television that's out there.
No, that featured actress in a comedy category, each year it's like 8 nominees. There's only supposed to be 6, and each year they're like, we're squeezing in a bunch of others because we can't choose. And I wish there were more ties because people deserve to, you know, share the thing. Are there any other last minute people to shout out? I wish that Pose, which was nominated for Best Drama, thank God. I wish that had gotten more recognition.
Yeah, but that was another one where the casting director, Alexa L. Fogel, was nominated very deservingly because it's a real history-making cast that is incredible. It gives incredible performances. All the artistry on that show really is just above and beyond.
Yeah.
And
one of those few things where you can say, I have never seen anything like this before.
Right. And it's another one where it's like, wow, this would be perfect for an ensemble category.
Totally. Well, good thing we have the SAG Awards.
Yes.
Come winter,
mm-hmm.
we'll all be celebrating the best performances of film and TV individually, but also they have those ensemble awards. And
yeah, at least they're somewhere.
We can get in, exactly. Okay, well, Elyse, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Are there any other last minute things we're supposed to talk about?
The
Emmys are September 22nd, that's worth mentioning. And I don't want to jinx it because some of these interviews haven't happened yet, but stay tuned Tuesdays and Thursdays for interviews with Emmy nominees. I have 2 booked in the pipeline again. I don't want to reveal any of who they are, but they're very, very exciting, and we do already have one in the bag with someone in the supporting actress in a comedy category. I'm not going to say who.
Keep it a surprise.
All right, keep it a surprise. But definitely a show that we've talked about on this podcast and on today's episode. Yeah, I'm so excited about this year at the Emmys.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about. We could be here for hours.
We could be here all day, but you got to get back to work. All right, well, thank you, Elyse.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! We went inside the envelope for an episode. In the Envelope, an awards podcast, is recorded at Lotus Productions, Hyperbolic Audio, and Big Yellow Duck in New York City, and Soundbox LA, Mark Grouse Studios, and Buzzies in Los Angeles. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tweet us at In the Envelope, leave a review. We want to hear from you. Visit Backstage.com for more content and resources for working artists, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with a free trial by using the code ENVELOPE at checkout. Thanks as always to podcast producer Wiz, Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at Jamie Music NYC. You can follow me, Jack Smart, on Twitter at Jack Smart Writes. Thank you to the team at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting: Mark Stinson, Samantha Sherlock, Francis Ramos, Caitlin Watkins, and especially should-be Oscar nominee Kasey Howe. Thanks for listening.